All right, we're gonna get started here. If there's any delays in getting your audio driver and stuff I talked about set up, that's fine. We'll just get you up and no worries. Right, so Ableton Intro Lesson 2. Hello and welcome. First note, make sure you have the stream quality set to, on Twitch, set to 1080p or source to be able to see the text of Ableton clearly. Auto streaming, it might go to 720 or something, but do 1080 if you can to see it clearer. And to start, does everyone have a working copy of Ableton? I also posted a link in the announcements channel for the FL Studio demo, which installs the FL ASIO driver that I recommend using at this point. It allows you to easily hear Ableton and the stream together. The other ASIO drivers work, ASIO for All works, and I've used it in the past, but I just tried it again earlier today, and it wouldn't even load in Ableton and stuff in 12. Maybe some issue with version 12, and I've had problems with it in the past. It's also worked for me in the past, so I'd recommend using the FL Studio ASIO driver. It installs default in the FL demo that you can download, and then you can keep or uninstall the demo, just leave the ASIO driver. I also suggest you play with FL Studio. It's an amazing program. I certainly love it a lot, even though I use Ableton as my main DAW right now, for now at least. So, so now we're next, related to audio technical stuff, we're going to go into some Windows settings and change Windows audio settings to allow us to hear multiple sources together. Again, I'm working with Windows 11 as an operating system. Let me know if you're on a Mac, OS X, with some slight differences. But to start with, in Windows, you want to hit the Start button and type in Sound Settings. You can also go down and right-click on the bottom here, right-click on the speaker icon and hit Sound Settings. And from Sound menu here, scroll down to Advanced to More Sound Settings and open that. You'll see this menu pop up here. And then scroll down the list here to find your audio device. If you are using an audio interface, you'll find it on the list here. Or if you don't have an audio interface and you're just using the audio output of your computer, you'll find that here in Speakers, Realtek USB Audio, USB Realtek device. Right-click on that and Properties. Open the Properties menu, and then go to Advanced and uncheck this option, Allow applications to take exclusive control over the device. This is what will make Ableton or other things control the sound and not allow other programs to use it. So uncheck that exclusive mode, hit Apply, OK, and Apply, OK. And there you go. Now Ableton will not control audio without sharing it with the rest of your PC. If you guys need me to go over any of this stuff at any time, just let me know. So from that being set, now let's return to Ableton to the audio settings. Again, that's Options, Settings, or Control, comma. Open the audio settings here. Go down to the audio section here. Select ASIO for your driver type. And again, as I recommend, selecting FL Studio ASIO for your driver for the audio device. Then hit the Hardware Setup button and in the FL Studio ASIO driver menu here, the default input is fine. And then for the output, select whatever output you're using. If you don't have a audio interface and you're just using the audio on your computer, just select the Realtek speakers output. Or if you do have an audio interface, select your interface. If you do have an interface sound card, you may not have this problem anyways. You may be able to select the sound card as the device here in Ableton, and as long as that exclusive mode is not enabled in the sound settings we just fixed for the sound card, then you can also have your PC desktop audio through the sound card as well, so you can hear Ableton and the stream together. But no sound card, no problem. Select the speakers Realtek output here, and then click that test tone to hear it. See if you hear that playback in your audio output. And again, if you have any problems with setting up this audio detail stuff, let me know in the chat. I can help you out. Otherwise, if it's just not working for you, listen to the stream, and you can select 2 different sources for audio. You could, use your one source here in Ableton, and then down in the sound settings, here in Windows, you could select a different source, like the speakers of your monitor, or something else, a Bluetooth speaker, whatever you got, just so that you can listen to the 2 sources, the stream and your Ableton at the same time. Prioritize listening to the stream. We're going to make some noise in Ableton, but you can switch to that when you need to. So, all right, with that audio set up, we went over these details in the previous lesson about all the setup things. There aren't really things you need to change, honestly, in Ableton, other than setting up the audio settings like we did here. And then, unless you're using like a demo of Ableton, want to go into this licenses and updates and turn these guys off. So, all right, with those settings done, we're ready to jump into something. Yeah, the technical stuff and headaches is a major part of music production, and one of the things that keeps people away from it and provides the random frustration and headaches to every user at points, no matter how experienced. So don't take it personally if you struggle with this stuff. Sometimes it just happens. So, and let's check this here. Okay. All right. So in the previous lesson, we started with a basic introduction to Ableton and the layout and basic functions. We will continue in the same path today, moving on from the previous lesson. If you missed it, it's available in the Discord in the previous lessons channel. But don't worry, I will be reiterating much of the basic info, as repetition and practice in this stage is what we are working on now. Again, to reiterate, like, it's the mundane repetition and practice of the basic functions in the DAW that get you comfortable with using it, so that you're actually able to get into a creative flow and know how to do stuff, and don't lose that momentum clicking around and not being able to figure out how to make things happen. So we'll start with a new Ableton project open, or if you opened a project you're working on, or the one from the previous lesson, that's fine. Previously, we started with loading an operator synth and a drum kit onto our channels and creating a simple MIDI pattern for playback. So let's do that again now. So to refresh operator synth on channel 1, how do we do that? Go into the instruments section here in our library, find the operator, and with channel 1 selected, either double click or click and drag onto channel 1 to load that operator synth. and drum kit on channel 2. You can select MIDI channel 2 and select drums up here above instruments. And again, these are all the pre-made kits that come with Ableton. As you click and cycle through them, go up and down with the arrow keys and hear a preview of them playing down here, as long as this headphone icon is turned on. So find a drum kit, doesn't really matter at this point, and load that onto channel 2. Let's see. Ignore that stuff. That's something I was demonstrating, showing before. Okay. So now if you remember, we had this button up here in the top right that looks like a piano keyboard up here. And with that turned on, we can use our keyboard as a MIDI input device, our computer keyboard. You can see that flashing light up here in the corner that shows that it's getting a MIDI signal. And with channel 1, their operator synth selected, we can hit that arm button, red one down here, to arm the channel and play keys on our keyboard. And now we're playing that synth. So, oh yeah, I had this idea. Okay, let's change this operator synth we loaded to a preset. So go back to Instruments, find the operator in the list, and click the little triangle next to it to open that up, open the list of presets. And again, you can go through these presets and hear what they sound like. It'll keep playing this loop. You can start and stop the loop with the spacebar when that's playing. And let's find this azimuth bass and double click, load that on channel 1 to replace the init operator preset. So now we have this bass on this channel. You can hear playing the notes there, and again, use the Z and X keys to move up and down an octave. So hit the Z key a couple times to move down to a lower bass note. If you go too low, you can hear the sound collapse and fall apart, where it's too low to be audible, you know? So use those octave keys of Z and X to find the low octave there, and double click in that first box up here to create a MIDI clip. Now, again, remember you can adjust the size of the clip window by clicking and dragging the barrier here, and you can also adjust the size of the piano keys over here on the piano roll by hovering your mouse over to the magnifying glass icon and clicking and dragging to zoom. Now, click and hold key on your keyboard, and something I like to remember is that on the ASDF row of keys on the keyboard, the F key is the note F. So hold F, and while you're holding the F key, scroll down the list here on the piano keys until you see that key lit up. There it is, F0. And so double click and place a note there. Go to the end of the note to get the bracket shape, and click and drag to make that note the length of the clip. So there's a headphone icon at the top of the piano keys here that you can turn on. When it's turned on, you'll hear previews of the notes as they're placed on the grid. So turn it on now and click the note and use the arrow keys to move it up and down. And you'll hear a preview of what that note sounds. So now with that note selected, again, remember you can either click on the note or you can click and drag to select the whole grid area like this and select those notes. And then hit the duplicate Control-D command to duplicate it. Now, go to the top of the bar here with the numbers on it, with the bar timing markers, and you see your magnifying glass icon again, and click and drag out to zoom out and see the rest of the clip now that we've doubled the length of it and it's 2 bars long. If you hit the play button on the clip here to launch the clip, you see that it only plays this first section though. Again, remember spacebar to start and stop playback. It's only playing this first section. You can see this highlighted, lit up here, because that's the length of the loop. And remember, in the previous lesson, we set the length of it with this length function over here underneath the loop button. So you can set it there, or you can also click and drag these triangles over here. You can see the bottom one and the top one turns to a bracket. You can click and drag that to the end of the 2-bar loop that we created now to play back the whole pattern. Now, click on the second note here and hit the arrow keys on your keyboard to move it up 3 steps to a G sharp. So now you can play that back. And we have 2 different bass notes playing. Okay. Now let's go to our drum kit that we put on channel 2. Remember, if you didn't put one on there, throw one on there from the list in the drums category. Just select a kit at this point and load it onto channel 2 and create a clip. Double click on it to create a clip. And again, remember, in drum kits, the kick is usually, if not always, the first one on the list here. Double click to create a note on the 1 and create, well, let's see, you can also click on these keys and hear the sound of that slot. So double click, say in 1-3, create a snare in the middle, and then add some other hi-hats. Let's see, this one, hi-hat. Double click, and create a note. You can move them around the grid again with your arrow keys on your keyboard. Remember, you can Control duplicate to duplicate that note, move it around, and let's do that to create a couple drum hits and launch our clip to hear it. Got our little drum pattern playing there. Now, okay, yeah, so also under the clips here, you notice there are the play arrows that we're using to launch the clips, but then below it there is a stop button. Now, as you create clips, these buttons can be used to also stop the clip, playback, and launch the clip. So, we're going to come back to that in 1 second. Okay. Up on the left here, well, I just clicked out. As you can see, I clicked out of the channel and lost the view for the kit down here. Remember, you can return to the clip views for the channels on the bottom right here by selecting these different views, the one for the front panel, or in this case, double click on the clip to go back to that clip view. And up here in the top left, next to the link and tap buttons, there's the BPM counter, the BPM meter. And so single click on that and type in 140 and hit enter. That'll change the BPM of your project. The default is 120, and so speed it up a bit to 140. Yeah. And let's see, now let's hit play and turn these send knobs to the effects up. There you go, that's something from the previous lesson. Remember about using these sends to send the sound of the channel to these FX returns over here with the default reverb and delay on them. And that's something that we'll come back to in a minute here. All right, so as I said, there are these small stop buttons below the clips here and the play button to launch the clips. By clicking those while it's playing, you can start and stop the clips. This is getting into what made Ableton the live part, the session view we are in, and the clip boxes. You can make clips and have them all stacked up in different orders and play through them from top to bottom. Kind of like old tracker DAWs did, where they played from the top and then went down as time progressed. This is a creative way to play and jam within Ableton, and it's basically what makes live unique. Many people play whole live sets by launching clips and have a whole live show laid out from top to bottom in clips like this. As you play the clips and, for example, you hit the stop button underneath it, it will stop that clip and also launch it in time with the BPM that's playing. So let's try that and duplicate the clips we've made. So let's click to select the first drum clip here and hit Control D to duplicate it, and then right click on it or hit Control R to rename right here, and rename it something like part 2, enter. And then with that clip selected, we can change the drum hits. Let's maybe just change it around a bit. And then we can play again. We can play and launch our second part. And there, that's giving you a taste of clip launching and this session view interface that can be used as a way to stack up clips with different patterns, duplicate them and change them, and create some parts to experiment and play with in this view, which is, as I said, a very common thing to do and part of the unique workflow of Ableton Live. Okay, so let's add a new synth part. So select channel 1 and duplicate it. Remember how to do that. You click at the top of the channel at the name part here to select it, and then hit Control D to duplicate the entire part. Now let's put an operator on it, just a plain operator. So go back to Instruments and the operator synth here. Oh no, I said let's do another one. Sorry, yeah. Operator is a fine synth to use. It's very useful and very common. But let's try the analog one, just for a difference. Let's go to the analog synth, open the presets button on the side, and go down to select like this one, Cherry Pad, and click to load on channel 2. And now hit our clip launch on that, but also let's hit the solo button. Click on the solo here on the channel to hear just that channel. And we can hear that's very low. Let's double click to go back to that clip. Click and drag to select those notes and hold shift and hit up on the keyboard to raise it up an octave. You know, while we do that, we've got that selected, moved up to 2 octaves like that. Now let's hit Control Copy, Control C for copy, and then move those back. Oops. And then hit Shift and down to move those down an octave. And then Control V, paste the ones back there. And now we have these 2 mini pad notes layered like that. You know, you could do that again. You can hit Shift up to make a high one, and then paste again to paste that back in the middle. Now you see we just used those really common copy and paste conventions. You can see I talked about to make notes, copy, paste, duplicate it, and create a pattern like that real quick. So also, there's this button over here that says Fold. So if you have a MIDI pattern drawn up here, and say you have notes spread out on the grid here, you can hit that Fold button, and it'll fold it down to the grid down to just the notes you have programmed in there. All right. Now we have some pad sounds programmed in there. We can, as you can see, like when I'm stretching it, you know, shrinking it back down to see the rest of the window here, you hit that Fold button and you can see all the notes you have programmed in there. Okay, now unsolo that track and play it with the rest. Adjust the volume of it. Click in the box of the fader, type in -6 and enter. Remember that convention with Ableton as well. Pretty much everything you can single click on it and type in a number and hit enter to enter a value. All right. So let's see. All right. Now let's add a third part. Let's take that pad we have here, again, select at the top, hit Control D to duplicate it, and now let's throw an operator instrument on it. So let's go back to the list here, operator synth, double click to load it on that track. And remember, again, to get back to that synth interface, there's the buttons down here. You can also double click on the channel itself at the top to go back to the operator. Or you can use these buttons down here, remember. So with just a plain operator loaded on our channel, let's select the top of the channel here and either right-click and hit rename or hit Control R and call it ARP. You can also right-click and change the color of it to something to help it stand out. And then change the color of the clip to match it. Let's go into that clip of the ARP that we just created, because remember we duplicated it from this channel. And let's click and select one of these notes, hold Shift, select the other one, and delete them. And let's repeat that for the other ones too, these high ones. Delete those. So we just have these 2 MIDI notes here. Again, remember, it's real simple, just intuitive. Click to select the note, hold Shift, to select another one, hit delete to get rid of them. And now let's go to the MIDI effects category over here, where you have effects for MIDI instruments. And let's load an arpeggiator onto this channel. You can either, of course, click drag to place it on there, or double click if the channel's highlighted, selected, I mean. Now we have an arpeggiator on there, and again, let's solo this channel and just hear this. Click that solo button and launch the clip. Now we hear the arpeggiator going through. Let's add some steps to it. As you can hear, the arpeggiator is just repeating one note. So let's add steps. Again, you can drag this up and down with your mouse, or you can click and hit arrow keys on your keyboard, or type something in and hit enter. Let's turn it to 3 steps, like that. There we go. And then unsolo it. To make it louder, go back to that channel level here, double click on that -6 to return it to the 0. Alright, great. Now you may notice over here on the master channel with those things playing just open that it clipped a little bit. You can see that yellow indicator light up here where it shows you the peak of the level here. It shows you how loud that channel's getting in that number, and when it turns yellow, that means it's clipping over 0. In that case, 0.28 is not very much. It's not really sounding bad or anything. And you can click to reset that indicator. Okay, anyways. So we've created a bass, a pad, a lead, and a drum kit here. This is a pretty standard start of the tune and replicating the kind of things you would actually do for a real production scenario. So let's move on. Okay. Next, we'll take these clips we've made and put them into the arrangement view and try that method of building a song. So go to channel 1 here and single click on the first clip in channel 1 to select it. You can see it highlighted there. And then hold shift and go over to the clip on channel 4, shift, and click on that clip to select that whole row of clips there. With that row selected, hit Control C to copy, and then switch to arrangement view over here, top right corner, the horizontal bars, click that to switch to the arrangement view. Now, there was some stuff there from me messing around before the lesson. So you switch over to the arrangement view and it looks like this. This is where you are laying out tracks horizontally. And now let's click on bar 9 in the first channel here. Again, remember this is the first channel. Everything's just flipped horizontal now. Click on bar 9 there at the top and hit Control V to paste it. Now we pasted those clips from session view over into arrangement view. And then hit Control D to duplicate it. And now you duplicated the clips and made it longer. Okay, when you are copying and pasting things back and forth between session view and arrangement view, make sure that what you select and copy matches where you paste it over here in arrangement view, because if I select the wrong channel and paste it, it'll paste everything, as you can see, down a row like that. So with that pasted there and the pattern duplicated to extend it, now you notice these are all grayed out. And that's because the clips are triggered to play in the session view here that we were just in. So returning to arrangement view here, you see all of these gray play arrows on the sides of the channels, and also the orange play arrow here button that these are used to change the channels into playing in the arrangement view. And the orange one does it for all of them. You can hit them individually like this, and you can hit the orange button to switch them all into playing in arrangement view. So now we've got our clips playing in arrangement view. Let's zoom in on them and get a better look. So with your magnifying glass up here, again, your mouse in the number timing bar up here, it changes to this magnifying glass shape. You can click and drag to zoom in on the track, or you can also click and drag to select the area that you want, and then double click that magnifying glass up here to automatically zoom to that section. Okay. I just had to stop myself from compulsively hitting Control S, like I mentioned before, that quick save command Control S of saving your project, which is something that you want to become a reflexive habit. And although I'm not saving this this project right now, but I'm just pointing out that that was, I just instinctively wanted to do that, because that just becomes a habit. And it's a good one. Save your work and back it up. Remember, 2 different places. Back it up in 2 external sources. So. All right. Okay. We are ready for this next part here. Let's. All right. So we've got our clips pasted from session view over to arrangement view. As you can see, this is a very common way for laying out your tracks horizontally, and you've got all the timing. You've got the timing of the bars, of the measures, of the beats up here at the top, and you've got the timing of seconds and minutes time down here in the bottom. And so obviously you can lay out your tracks horizontally like this as well. And so with that being said, let's go back to the session view and copy that different drum part that we made. Select part 2, same process, Control C, and return to arrangement view, and then let's select and paste it over here at the end of this clip and duplicate it a couple times. You can duplicate it. You can also drag it out like we did with those MIDI notes, where when you move your mouse over to the side, it turns to that bracket shape, and you can click and drag, and your loop will be extended. So we can extend that to make this longer drum part that way as well. Now, copying and pasting stuff. Let's go back and select these parts again. You can click and select one, hold Shift, click and select the far one to select that whole group. Now, just like you select stuff in Windows, it's all the same conventions. And then duplicate it again. And then let's grab that first drum part. Let's copy that, select, paste it over here. And see, you can tell the difference with the different MIDI notes. You can see that the MIDI patterns look different, but that's why we renamed this one part 2, so that we know that that's the second part. Let's see. Now, let's create a bit of an arrangement here. We have our small loop created. Let's select one of these ARP loops. Let's select this one. Let's hold Control key and select. Nope, shouldn't have done that. Come on, Ableton. I thought I could do that. I could have sworn I could do that. Okay. Anyways, for some reason I forgot you can't Control select different ones. Let's it just selects them like a Shift select. So, anyways, let's select this one and hit the 0 key, the number 0 on your keyboard. And you see how that grays it out? Let's do that to this one again. So the clip is still there, it's just deactivated. 0 turns clips on and off. 0 also turns channels on and off. You can select a channel and you see that light over here turning on. So now we have created a little variation in our pattern here. We can play it and hear something. Oh, before we do that, let's click and drag to select the length of the pattern and hit Control L, the loop. You can see this thing laid up here, the loop button as well. Let's loop it. All right, we have our little loop. Let's do what they do in, most loops and select the end of it. Remember our drum kit here? And we can select the bottom here. Let's click and drag to select those last two parts of it. And again, hit that 0 key to disable just the end of it there. And then that creates that little turn, without the drums at the end of the loop, right? Yeah, there we go. All right. So let's see. Now let's do some automation. As Oxide, was talking about in the previous FL lesson too, the automation is super common for, composing tunes and creating variation and change in your piece so you don't have just a stagnant sound playing the entire time. So automation in Ableton is pretty simple and straightforward. Let's demonstrate that on something here. Okay, so remember we were using, in the session view, we were using these send knobs to send channels to the effects, the reverb and delay here. Well, those send knobs in arrangement view are these boxes over here. So let's take the pad and let's find the send A is the first box over here. Send B is the one next to it. Let's double click or click and drag to adjust. Let's double click to reset send A down to 0, that minus infinity sign, and right click on it and hit show automation. And now we are in the automation view. We see this dotted red line, dashed red line on the bottom, indicating that there's nothing there. And if we move our mouse down to the bottom here where that line is, let's click once to create a point, and then go to the end of the clip here. Well, let's go to the middle here and double click here to create a point at the top. And you can see it creates this slope of automation going up. You can click and drag these points to adjust the levels. You can also right click on it and hit edit value and type in something and hit enter to set it manually like that. Again, remember, select something, either select a MIDI clip, click and drag the whole thing, or you can select the loop bar at the top and double click to snap zoom to that. So here we've created an automation slope of the send A to the reverb. Let's turn that up to the maximum. Oh, you can see there with the thing selected, it just moved the whole reverb chain. So with all this selected, let's just click somewhere to unselect all these clips and click and drag and move that point back down to the bottom. Okay. Now with this slope for the automation created, let's click and drag to select that section and hit Control C to copy, and then go over to Send B and right click, show automation on Send B, and then Control V to paste that same automation line into the automation. This is called the automation lane here, this area when you're in automation mode for Send B. And now we have automation created for both sends to the reverb and delay. Let's click and select both of those MIDI clips and duplicate them so that automation carries across. Now we can play that. And we have the pad being sent to the FX there. Let's repeat that process. Remember how we just copied, we selected and copied that automation there. We still have it copied, but let's just select it. Oh no, let's use a different technique. Let's apply the same automation to this ARP here, actually. So let's go back to this send A of the ARP down here for the reverb, and right-click, show automation, and then instead of the method we used before, let's click to select this MIDI clip. Again, if you click at the top of it, it'll select the whole thing, or you can click and drag to select it like this. And then right-click, and at the bottom, it's Insert Shape here. And we can select a shape there. Let's select this ramp up shape here. And there, it inserts this shape into the amount you have selected. This will insert the shape into whatever you have selected. So if you have just this amount selected and repeat that, it'll do it there. That's another way to put your automation shapes in there. And then you can click and drag the amount yourself. You can also click and add points and change it, of course, drag it around. So yeah, now let's repeat that with Send B. Again, remember, go back to Send B over here, right-click, show automation. It pops up here. Select the clip, insert shape, ramp up like that, and then boom, now we have that. We have that automation for that MIDI clip there. Let's select the clip by clicking at the top, the bar on the top, and Control C to copy, select the other one, Control V to paste it over there. Now we have the automation carried over. Okay, so that is how automations function in Ableton. It's pretty simple. You can automate anything that you choose to, whether that's a control of a synth or a part of a FX unit or something like that. We're just using these FX sends right now because they're very easy and convenient in Ableton right here. You can open those effects here and take a look at it, the reverb unit and the delay unit that's on those sends. See what those are. And now you may have noticed that up here, we're in this automation view where things look different. You have all the lines for the automation. The clips look a little different. They're kind of faded out in color from their usual view. And up here, above the list of channels, you've got this yellow box with the line that looks kind of like an automation line right here that's lit up. So you click this to go back and forth between automation mode and normal clip mode. So click that again to go back to the normal clip mode. And then you're back in the world where you can click on these clips and you're not dealing with the automations or anything. Just selecting them and playing them back. Okay. So we've got a pattern made here for a drum kit. We've got a variation of the pattern for some change. We've got an ARP playing here with the arpeggiator, with the MIDI arpeggiator here. Got the pad playing here, and a bass. Like I said, pretty basic stuff when it comes to creating a tune, but incredibly common. I mean, this is just how you do it. You know, all other productions are just taking these basic steps to higher levels and getting more complex with what you're doing, but all using essentially these same techniques. So, are there any questions? It's kind of a time to ask now. Any questions, any stuff that we covered that you want to go back over? Anyone getting caught up in clicking in automation lanes and stuff not behaving for them, tech issues, anything like that? Let's hear it, chat. All right. I know in Oxide's lesson just before, he also covered opening plugins from third-party sources. Again, the plugins that are stock with Ableton are all found here in the library in the instruments section and drums section. Sounds are the samples that come with it. There's a search function up here at the top. The new versions of Ableton also have these, I think since like 11 or no, maybe I think it's 12 actually. They have these like tags you can sort through too, you know, and filters and stuff that can help you find stuff, and these things like that. But there's a search function up here where you can also search for stuff, like type in, say, bass, you know, and then it'll show you instruments with bass, audio effects with the tag bass, etc. And that's the search function for the browser up here. Again, remember this is called the browser over here, where you browse all of the tools and plugins in Ableton here in the library, and also the places, the file browser that you set yourself here. Previous lesson, I covered adding a folder here to add your sample folder, where you're saving all your samples in a collected spot in your computer, and then adding it here so you can access it, such as this, you know. And yeah, search function works for all that stuff. And the X here to clear it. And you just type in what you're looking for there. It's a really easy way to navigate it. Again, that's one of Ableton's strong points, is the very clean and clear version of this, how everything's laid out. Everything functions basically by click, type, search. You know, the automation is all very on grid and everything like that too. Yeah. So let's see, something else we could cover. Oh, I mentioned Oxide had covered third-party plugins before too. So going to the plugins section over here of the library, this is where I mentioned in the previous lesson that you have your file structure set up in the options. Again, remember Control, comma, or options, settings, to open the settings menu. And then here, plugins, this is where you have the directory set for your plugins that you have installed. And I had reiterated how the default installation location for many plugins is program files Steinberg VST, because Steinberg invented VSTs, you know, the makers of Cubase. But you can set that anywhere you want. Like you can see here, I have mine set to common files /VST2 or VST3. We'll go more into VSTs in the future for sure. But with those locations set here via the custom folder, browse, and then the scan function to scan your VSTs saved in that location, you find them over here in the plugins section. and that's where you can open, plug in, put something on there, you know, and the plugins all pop up looking like the same Ableton stock things in these little gray boxes. They all have the same interface like this with the power button and the little wrench icon here to open and close the plugin window. The little wrench there to open it and also close it. Oh, and remember down here in the bottom left corner, most important button of all, the info view button, this yellow eye that opens the info view that will tell you what everything is, the info view that will explain everything on the screen that your mouse hovers over, like this. Let's see, what's this? Shape. Oscillator 1 waveform. You know, it explains what everything is, and this is the most powerful part of Ableton as far as learning and mastering it. Yeah, so highly recommend to use that, and that will tell you what everything is. Yeah, pretty much it. Let's see. No questions or comments. You know, got a little bit more time if you guys want to hang out. Let's see. You know, we have our basic stuff that we've created here. As you can see, I added an EQ after this, though. That's, you know, kind of the natural step after you have these sounds made, is you want to shape them. So we can do that again with the audio effects. We went into this a little bit in the previous lesson. Audio effects, let's add a, I don't know, let's add an amp to it and hear that bass, and let's solo it again. You can turn the arm off if you're not playing it. That's for solo. All those controls are over here in the arrangement view. And yeah, right now we got some distortion. Oh yeah, there we go. So, yeah, got the amp effect on the bass. Let's add an EQ to it. EQ 8 over here. Double click to load it there. Remember, you can open the EQ 8 bigger by pressing this button here, going to large view. Okay, so let's do something classic. Erosion, the erosion effect, you know, just like erosion of land. Noise, it's a noise maker. Let's do a wide noise. Here we go, width, turning the width up. Now let's click and drag it before the EQ. There we go. I don't know. I'm just kind of playing around for a few minutes here. Let's put the glue compressor on it. This is a compressor that we'll go into detail with all these stock effects of Ableton and other plugins in detail in the future. But let's put the glue compressor on it. Soft clip over here on. So you clip the signal, and then make up gain, and blast it. There we go. You can see it clipping up there. You can see our master gain clipping here too a bit, you know. And that's okay. So the levels over here in the arrangement view are these, again, everything changes to these horizontal boxes like this. So this is our main output level. Same with the back in the session view, you know, that's adjusted with the channel fader. We can set that. And we can adjust those levels, again, of course, by clicking in the box here, clicking, typing something in. Let's type in, or, you know, go, unsolo it. And if you're not sensing a pattern here of stuff that happens a lot, like I pointed out, copying and pasting and duplicating things, something that's very common in workflow. Let's select this amp and then hold Shift and click through and select all of these. And now you can either copy and paste it into another channel, or you can also duplicate it by holding hold Control key and click on the highlighted things and drag them into the drum kit over here. And then release the mouse, and boom, there, we've just dragged all this stuff in the same, a duplication of it, into the drum kit. Let's hear that now. There we go, lots of distortion. Forgot about that. Let's turn the dry wet down. You guys remember that? Dry wet control, super common. Super common, like you will find it on every effect. Basically, dry wet is the amount of effect being applied to it. Here, we'll turn this amount, speaking of amount, turn this erosion amount down, way down, or just turn it off. Click that power button to just turn it off, and play the drums now. Got some crunchy distortion on it. Solo it. Yeah. Experimenting with effects and figuring out what things do is just part of the process that you can play around with on your own. I guess, in terms of, let's say, homework and stuff, for the next Tuesday that we're going to do again, why don't you just apply these concepts, these little things that we did here, into making some kind of loop. Don't really worry about how it sounds, just have fun with it and make something put together like we did now. Might want to take the amp off the drums, and get some sound you like. There you go. Sounds a little more tame, Boost the bass. Why not? Yeah. So we have our little loop playing here. Let's say I wanted to export it and save it as some audio. All right. Exporting and saving to audio is simple. In this case, let's do some more stuff actually. Let's turn off this loop up here. Remember the loop button up here? Let's turn off that loop. We've got our drums laid out here. Let's make a little intro to it. Let's select the add clips. Again, remember you can shift select all of them or click and drag to select them. Let's select these. Control copy, Control C to copy, Control V to paste it in the middle, and make ourselves a little intro. Let's do the same thing with part of this bass. Remember that control and click and drag function to duplicate, that also works too on MIDI clips and everything. You can also hold the control key, click and drag. You can see where the mouse turns into a little hand there. That's where, if you try to drag the thing like this, you'll see it doesn't work. But if it's the hand icon like that, then you can drag and move the clips around that way. Lots of different ways to duplicate and move stuff. Again, you can hold down Control and click and drag, and it'll duplicate it. You can also hit that Control D to duplicate as well. There. Yeah, yeah, remember over here, everything's horizontal, same controls as the section view. Adjusting the level of the channel, let's do -9 instead, a little quieter. There we go, cool. All right, now let's export this. So that's what you guys could do for next week, over the next several days, over the weekend, play around with these same techniques and then export something with it. The way you do that, pretty simple. Well, actually, why don't we finish making it into like a fake little mini tune while we're at it too. So you see how we just created this arrangement view here. We got our intro, we got our drum drop here. Let's click over here at the end of it. Make sure you're clicking right at the end here. And on the bottom, click and drag to select all of this. Let's select it all the way over to here. Select this whole chunk. Again, remember you could also do that by just clicking this one, holding Shift, and clicking down there to select two, or click and drag, and then you might have guessed it, Control D to duplicate it. And so now we have our little loop played out. And then back to a little break. Let's turn off the bass there. Select these bass clips. Again, remember, hit 0 to turn them off. And there we go. We made our little loop thing, you know. Let's make a little outro. Select this clip and duplicate it. Boom, there we go. Got intro, drop, break, second drop, outro. You know, so that's just how you arrange things. In arrangement view, you can see how you can quickly build up a tune structure that way. So let's recap. You know, we created our clips here with the different instruments, jamming around in session view, created a variation of those clips, and then pasted them over into arrangement view and laid them out to make a tune structure, you know? Okay. Yeah, so now let's export it to some audio. For that, we're going to be looking at the main channel. I have this plugin here for streaming. You don't need to worry about. But, you know, just to prevent levels clipping, we're not going to worry about mixing and mastering and stuff at this point. Those will be advanced classes to come in the future that I'm looking forward to teaching because it's really fun. But for now, on the main, just put a limiter on there. Again, that's over in the audio effects column here in the library. Limiter down here, just double click and load a limiter. Most of you guys probably know what that is. It just limits the signal level, right? Which will prevent it from going over the top, over 0, from clipping. And at this point, we're not going to worry at all about messing with it and everything. We're just going to throw that on there on our main channel, or the master output channel. And then we're checking the level of the main master output over here. Remember, I have it set at -2 right now. You can adjust that. And just double click to set it back to 0 because we've got our limiter on there that's going to clip anything coming through the master that's above that. So limiter on the main, output of it set to 0. We've got our clips laid out here. Now let's go to export it. So up here, file, export audio /video, export audio, rendered track, main, our master main out, render length, 32 bars. You can see, well, yeah, our clips over here end at 33, so and render length 32. Everything else, sample rate, everything else you can leave. And these two parts here, PCM, encode PCM, this is creating WAV files or creating an MP3 down here. That's where you select which ones you want to create. If you want to export it as an MP3 down here, or if you want to export it as a WAV file up here. File type, WAV. I mean, FLAC, is lossless audio for music. AIFF is Mac, Apple format. WAV is just pretty universal. I'd recommend using that. Bit depth, 24, 32, whatever, doesn't really matter at this option. Just select 32. And there, you're ready to export it. Hit the export button. You'll see this come up of where you want to export it. Desktop, and, Ableton Lesson 2 loop. On naming conventions and stuff, this is something that people figure out. I'll just point it out now, though, that it is very helpful to give a structure, a method to your madness, so to speak, of your naming and saving conventions, so that you can help make sense of the files and the stuff you start generating and all that. So, like, for example, let's call this Ableton Lesson 2 loop dash today's date 11.20.2501 for version 1. Basically this part. This is, really good for keeping track of what you're actually doing here. Because maybe I change it and created a second export and stuff. Well, then I create that, change it to number 2. And this way, when you go through all the stuff you're making, you can actually remember, oh yeah, that's what this is. That being said, you can also have a place on your computer saved where you're saving this stuff. Like here I have, different versions of my things that I'm saving, projects I'm working on. So yeah, just starting to give structure to your files and your file structure. I know it sounds like office, managerial stuff, but it saves you a headache in the future, basically, and makes it easy to make sense of and navigate. So Ableton Lesson 2 loop 11.20.25 version 1. Ready, save. Boom. And then you'll see it exported again. Audio. Won't take very long. It's not a very long loop, but yeah, basically follow that and make some fun loop. Make a couple of them. You're doing this for yourself too, and just have fun. Make some loops like that. And once that file is done, you can see what it sounds like, see what it looks like. Let's cover that real quick. Yeah, we're coming up on, what, an hour and 23 minutes, let's just do a few minutes more. So select the bottom channel here, right, in arrangement view, and then go up, hold shift, click, select the top one. Again, you know how it is. Shift, click, select all, and then click the little arrow next to it to collapse all those. Now, go back to that audio track and open up just that one. Let's click and drag the bottom of it to make it bigger. And solo it with the solo key here to listen to just that track. And then we can go to the browser over here where I have it set up with my desktop in the browser. So I can access the desktop and different parts of the computer set up in the browser over here conveniently. But then you can also, of course, go to your browser here, go to wherever you just exported that, and find that file and click and drag into that channel. You can also do that from the browser. It works the same way. So there you go. That's the file we just made. And now with the channel soloed, important because we don't want to hear the other stuff, we can listen to it. We can play it back. And there you go. You're making tunes already. Who knew? Again, like I said, remember the point at this time is to just become familiar with these basic processes and basic steps. And I am emphasizing the fact that all advanced music production and work in the DAW is using the same iterations of these basic steps and techniques and basic principles. So there you go. I hope we're off to a good start with it. Please let me know any comments or feedback. There's the teacher feedback section in the Discord as well. That is very welcome for you guys to use. And don't hesitate to ask any questions, anything you're struggling with. I'm here to help you guys for sure. Just hit me up in the Discord group. DM me or in the technical questions or anything like that. And yeah, that'll do it, guys, I think. Thanks for sticking with me for this today. I hope it was informative, and I've been enjoying going over this with you guys. So we're gonna get to a lot of fun stuff. It only gets more fun and better from here. So let's see some loops that are, loops, some audio that you guys export in this manner next week, and have fun making some stuff. So if there aren't any other questions, any comments or anything right now? Let's see, last chance. All right. Well, like I said, follow-ups, let's carry it on in the Discord group. So thanks, guys. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.